Have you ever found yourself in a room where everyone is completely glued to a football game and you're just not feeling it? Well, you are definitely not alone. Today, we're going to dive into the fascinating psychology behind why some of us just aren't football fans.
Oh yeah, we've all heard that one, right? It's that classic question, and it's always asked with this look of total disbelief, as if not loving the world's most popular sport is some kind of weird character flaw. But what if the reason has nothing to do with the game itself?
And that is the real question we're getting into today. See, this goes way deeper than just simple taste, like preferring one type of music over another. We're going to unpack how your fundamental psychology, the way your brain is actually wired, might be the real reason a 90-minute match just doesn't capture your attention.
It really kicks off with this idea called value dissonance. Now, this isn't about you trying to be a rebel or different for the sake of it. It's really about self-awareness. It's that feeling you get when your brain's reward system just doesn't light up for something that, society is telling you is the most incredible thing ever.
All right, so here's our game plan. We're going to explore 4 really distinct psychological profiles of non-fans. And hey, as we go through them, just see if any of these start to sound a little familiar. So, first up, let's talk about the self-focused thinker. This isn't a person who actively hates football. It's just that their mind is operating on a totally different wavelength.
For this type of person, it's pretty simple. They just don't get that big dopamine rush from watching other people succeed. They don't really feel the win when a team scores, because when you get right down to it, it's not their win.
This whole thing really hinges on something called vicarious emotion. You could call it the magic ingredient of being a sports fan, right? It's that ability to feel pure joy or crushing despair based on what happens in a game. But for this self-focused thinker, that particular ingredient is kind of missing from the recipe.
So, what does this look like in real life? Well, these are folks who don't really need a crowd cheering to feel like they belong. They're driven by their own goals, they find meaning and reward in their own personal journey, their own self-improvement, not by watching somebody else's highlight reel.
And this question pretty much sums up their internal monologue. It's not meant to be cold or uncaring, it's just incredibly practical. Their focus is on their own life, their own challenges, and their own growth. Now, what happens when someone who used to care starts to feel this way?
That brings us to our next profile, the disillusioned observer. Now this person, they often used to be a fan. They got it, they felt the excitement, but then something changed. For them, the detachment doesn't come from a lack of understanding. Actually, it's the opposite. It's from a place of heightened awareness. They started to see past the sport and saw the massive commercial machine behind it. The money, the marketing, and that illusion that it mattered more than real life just started to crumble.
This experience leads to something known as existential detachment. It's that light bulb moment when you realize that screaming at a TV won't solve your actual problems and celebrating strangers isn't going to fill a deeper void. The entertainment just loses its meaning because it feels totally disconnected from any real purpose. The difference between these first 2 types is really important. For the self-focused thinker, the reason is internal. There's just no personal reward in it for them. But for the disillusioned observer, the reason is external. The game itself lost its meaning. One is focused on self-improvement, and the other is looking for a more real-world purpose. Okay, on to our third profile, the redirected mind. For this person, it is not about a lack of passion. Oh no, far from it. Their passion is just aimed at completely different targets.
It really all comes down to their brain's reward system. To them, a football game can feel kind of repetitive, maybe even a little predictable after a while. Their brain is actually craving the novelty, the complexity, and the sense of personal mastery that they find in other hobbies.
What's going on here is a psychological need for what you could call diversified stimulation patterns. Basically, their mind gets a much bigger thrill from analyzing a complex movie, mastering a ridiculously hard video game, or maybe even understanding the inner workings of a car engine. It's all about interaction and variety.
So, where does all that passionate energy go? Well, it could be poured into anything that gives them that amazing mix of novelty and mastery. Things like cars, gaming, music, or movies. To them, these worlds just feel so much more alive and engaging than a football pitch.
And that brings us to our final profile, the honest realist. This one is defined by a really raw sense of practicality and, honestly, a need for emotional self-preservation.
See, for a lot of people, sports are a great escape from the daily grind. But for the honest realist, watching these incredibly successful, wealthy athletes can do the exact opposite.
It can actually become a painful reminder of their own struggles and just how far away their own dreams feel.
And let's be clear, this isn't about being bitter. It's a kind of psychological honesty. These folks see the world with this unflinching, practical lens. They can't help but ask themselves why they should invest so much of their precious emotional energy into something that gives them nothing tangible back and might actually make them feel worse.
This quote right here just cuts through all the spectacle and gets right to the heart of it. For this type, personal energy is a finite, precious resource, and they're just not willing to spend it on an illusion that doesn't help them in their real life.
So, let's do a quick recap of our 4 mindsets. We have the self-focused thinker, who's all about personal progress. The disillusioned observer, who's looking for real-world meaning. The redirected mind, who finds passion in more stimulating hobbies. And finally, the honest realist, who is carefully protecting their emotional energy.
And that really brings us to the big takeaway here. Not being a football fan isn't some kind of character flaw. It's not about being lazy or just trying to be different. It is a direct reflection of your psychological makeup. It's about how you are wired to find value, meaning, and excitement in this world.
So, I'm going to leave you with this question. After walking through these 4 profiles, do you see yourself in any of them? Are you the self-focused thinker, the disillusioned observer, the redirected mind, or the honest realist? Maybe you're a bit of a mix. It's definitely something to think about the next time someone looks at you and asks, "Bro, how can you not like football?"